When Elon Musk disguised himself as a factory worker, he uncovered a shocking secret that exposed the real reason behind Tesla's crisis. What he discovered will change the way you think about leadership forever. It was just another day at the Tesla factory. Machines humming, workers bustling, and the rhythmic clatter of car assembly filling the air. But everything changed the moment the doors swung open. In walked a new worker, clad in the standard orange Tesla uniform, the iconic logo emblazoned on his back. Yet, something about him was off. His confident stride, the way he tipped his cap low over his face, the quiet intensity in his movements, this was no ordinary employee. It was Elon Musk. Moving swiftly through the assembly line, his sharp eyes darted across the factory floor, taking in every detail, every inefficiency, every missed opportunity. He approached the shift supervisor, a seasoned middle-aged man barking orders to keep the line moving. In a slightly altered voice masking his unmistakable tone, Musk asked, "Where should I start?" The supervisor glanced at the new worker, his eyes narrowing slightly. "You're new?" he asked, his tone casual but his gaze lingering a beat too long. Elon gave a quick nod, his face neutral, though a faint glimmer of amusement flickered in his eyes before he looked away. The supervisor then pointed toward the far side of the factory. "Start with the machines over there." Elon nodded again and walked off, blending seamlessly into the sea of orange-clad workers. As Elon reached the assembly unit, the sounds of heavy equipment and the clatter of tools filled the air. The factory floor was bustling with activity, but as he walked, he couldn't help but notice the subtle undercurrent of tension among the workers. A few glanced his way, but quickly returned to their tasks. At the far side of the floor, the machines were in full swing. Workers were assembling parts, their movements mechanical, almost robotic. Elon's eyes flicked from one worker to another, taking in every detail. He observed the efficiency of the assembly line, noting the small, yet significant inefficiencies. There was something off about the way the workers interacted with the machinery. It wasn't just the lack of energy, it was as if they were following an outdated routine, disconnected from the innovations Tesla was supposed to represent. Elon stopped behind a young worker, assembling a part with a detached expression. "You're not focused," Elon said quietly. The worker looked up, surprised, then quickly dropped his gaze. "Just another day," he muttered. The subtle defeat in his voice struck Elon hard. It wasn't just workflow, it was a breakdown in the people. Elon processed this before moving on. Something needed to change. As he continued working with ease, the young worker beside him asked, "Do you have any prior experience?" Elon glanced at him. "No. Why?" "You look better than a freshie," the worker said, impressed. Elon smirked. "I worked in my dad's garage since I was a kid." Satisfied, the worker returned to his task, still watching Elon's effortless work. Elon's attention shifted when he saw the shift supervisor berating another young worker. The supervisor's voice was sharp, making the worker fidget, clearly embarrassed. Elon's brow furrowed. "Does this happen often?" he asked the nearby worker. "Yeah, pretty often," the worker replied. "Some of us just get used to it." Elon's gaze fixed on the supervisor. "Don't you ever stand up to him?" The worker scoffed bitterly. "We can't. Even if we speak up, it gets shut down before it reaches the boss." Elon's expression softened, realizing the deep frustration the worker felt, a system that silenced their voices. The factory floor, once a symbol of progress, now felt like a place where ambition was stifled by bureaucracy and fear. Elon realized the challenge wasn't just about machines, it was about the people. Nodding, he quietly took note of the worker's words and wrote, "Shift Manager," on a piece of paper, slipping it into his pocket. It was a silent reminder of the issues he needed to address. As he continued working, his hands moved automatically, but his mind lingered on the deeper problems. Soon, Elon faced an issue with a machine component that wouldn't fit. Frustrated, he turned to the worker beside him. "Can you give me a hand?" he asked. The worker hesitated, glancing nervously around. "I can't," he whispered. If the shift in charge sees us working together, he'll think we're slacking. Teamwork doesn't count here." Elon was taken aback. The fear in the worker's eyes revealed a culture of competition over collaboration. Sighing, Elon realized how deeply this mindset had taken root, where even seeking help felt risky. Halfway through the shift, the factory bell rang for lunchtime. Having observed the work and underlying tensions, Elon decided to head to the cafeteria for a moment of reflection. As he walked, the noise of the machinery faded, and he noticed a young worker near the break area, intently examining a piece of metal. Elon was drawn to the concentration in his eyes. "Hey, what are you working on?" Elon asked, slowing his pace as he approached. The young worker looked up, startled, before his eyes narrowed, seemingly sizing up the person who had spoken. Once he saw the look of genuine curiosity in Elon's face, the tension in his posture melted away. "Oh, just a small idea I had," he said, his voice quiet but full of excitement. "It's a modification to the assembly line. Could make things a lot more efficient. I've been sketching it out for a while, but..." Elon waited, sensing there was more. The worker's face darkened as he continued. "But it doesn't matter. Ideas like that don't get anywhere here. All that matters is the task at hand. You're assigned to your section, you do your job, and that's it. No one cares about anything beyond that." He paused, a bitter edge creeping into his voice. "I've tried talking to the manager, but nothing ever comes of it. It's like they don't even listen." Elon's eyes softened, the weight of the worker's words sinking in. He could see it in the young man's face, the frustration of someone with fresh ideas, someone who wanted to push boundaries, but was trapped by a system that only rewarded conformity. "It's like we're just machines ourselves," the worker continued, almost to himself. "We do the work, follow the routine, and that's all that's expected. No room for anything new. No one here even knows what innovation really means anymore." Elon stood there, quietly absorbing the revelation. It was a painful truth, one that echoed in the disillusionment of the worker before him. The passion, the innovation, it was being stifled by a culture that valued productivity over progress, routine over change. And here, in this factory where the future was supposed to be built, ideas like this were being left to die in the shadows. Elon walked toward the lunchroom, his mind still on the young worker and the frustration that had been masked by the rigid factory system. It was clear the worker's creativity had been stifled by management's narrow focus on assigned tasks. He grabbed his tray and sat, but the meal barely registered as his thoughts spiraled. How had Tesla's culture of innovation led to this? The worker's frustration lingered in Elon's mind. He thought about revealing his identity to address the issues directly, but hesitated, feeling there might be more to uncover. Finishing his lunch, he decided to remain undercover and continue observing, determined to understand the root of the dysfunction. As he returned to his station, a sense of unease followed him. The machines hummed in the background, but the worker's energy seemed drained. Elon's eyes scanned the room, and that's when he saw it. The shift manager, storming into the section with a scowl etched across his face. His voice rang out harshly as he approached a group of workers, berating them for what seemed like an arbitrary mistake. "How many times do I have to tell you this is unacceptable?" the shift manager barked, pointing aggressively at one of the workers. "You think I have time to babysit each one of you? Get it together now. You're all holding up production, and if this happens again, you'll be out of here. Understood?" The workers stiffened, shrinking under the weight of his anger. Some of them looked down at the floor, others glanced nervously at one another, but no one dared speak up. The manager's authority was absolute, and his harshness seemed to hang in the air, suffocating any chance of open communication. Elon watched from a distance, his jaw tightening. This was the moment he realized just how toxic the atmosphere had become. The manager wasn't just pushing for productivity, he was instilling fear. Workers weren't being encouraged to solve problems or think creatively. They were being controlled, reduced to mere tools of production. It hit Elon hard, like a punch to the gut. This was not what he had envisioned for Tesla, nor for any company. Employees were supposed to feel empowered, encouraged to think outside the box, not reduced to machines themselves, performing the same tasks over and over again, their ideas disregarded. His frustration boiled over. He turned to face the shift manager, who was standing near the workers, barking orders. Elon's heart raced as he walked toward the manager, each step echoing his growing resolve. The shift manager didn't seem to notice Elon's presence until he was standing right beside him, still unaware of who he really was. "Hey!" Elon called out, his voice steady but firm. The shift manager glanced over, sizing up the new worker in his orange suit. He gave Elon a dismissive look. "What is it?" he snapped, still not recognizing him. Elon stood tall, meeting his gaze with quiet authority. "These workers, what's going on here? They can't even do their jobs properly. They're struggling under the pressure, and you're pushing them harder. You're killing their spirit." The shift manager scoffed. "You're a rookie, aren't you? You don't understand the pressure we're under. We need results, not excuses. Keep to your work." Elon's pulse quickened. The manager still hadn't realized who he was, treating him like just another faceless employee. It was clear the shift manager didn't care about anything beyond the numbers, didn't see the human side of things. But to Elon, that wasn't just a mistake. It was a fundamental failure of leadership. "You don't get it," Elon said, his voice calm but laced with authority. "This isn't about pushing people to the brink. It's about empowering them. And right now, you're breaking them down. It ends now." The shift manager raised an eyebrow, clearly confused by the intensity in Elon's voice. "I said, get back to work." Elon stood his ground. The shift manager's dismissive attitude was only fueling his resolve. He was determined to fix this, to make sure the workers here weren't just cogs in a machine but were valued for their skills, their passion, and their ideas. The shift manager's gaze narrowed as he looked Elon up and down, still oblivious to who he was. "Look, rookie," he snapped, stepping forward with a sense of superiority. "I don't know who you think you are, but you're in my zone now. You do your job, and I'll do mine." Elon stood tall, unflinching, his eyes locking with the manager's. The noise of the factory seemed to fade away, the tension between them thickening the air. The workers around them had started to notice, their eyes flicking toward the confrontation, but no one dared speak up. Elon took a slow breath, then, with deliberate calm, reached into his pocket. He pulled out the small piece of paper he'd written earlier, the one with "Shift Manager" scribbled on it. He unfolded it, letting the paper hang loosely in his hand for a moment before glancing back at the manager. "You're right," Elon said, his voice steady. "I don't belong here, but maybe that's why I needed to be here in the first place." The shift manager tilted his head, brow furrowed in confusion. "What are you talking about?" Elon hesitated, feeling the weight of the moment settle on him. The factory hum around them seemed to slow, the air growing heavy with expectation. With a slow, deliberate motion, he removed his cap, revealing his face for the first time. A stunned silence rippled through the workers. Their gazes shifted from him to each other, eyes wide, heartbeats quickening as the realization began to settle in. The shift manager's eyes widened, his jaw dropping in disbelief. "I'm Elon Musk," Elon said, his voice steady but laced with a quiet intensity. The words hung in the air, carrying an undeniable weight. For a moment, the shift manager stumbled back, his breath catching in his throat, eyes wide, searching for words that didn't come. But before he could recover, Elon raised a hand to stop him. "You're not just overseeing a team here," Elon continued, his gaze sweeping across the workers. "You're leading people. These aren't machines. You can't treat them like they don't matter, like their ideas don't matter." His voice sharpened, the tension thickening. "You're stifling their creativity, their potential, and that ends now." The factory fell into a thick, suffocating silence. The shift manager, who had been shouting orders just moments ago, stood frozen, as if the ground had shifted beneath him. Around them, the workers held their breath, some faces reflecting fear, others a flicker of hope, all eyes locked on Elon, waiting for something, anything, to break the stillness. Elon's gaze softened, but his resolve didn't waver. This factory, this company, Tesla, is about pushing boundaries, about innovation. That includes the people who work here, not just the machines. If you're not fostering that, then you're doing it wrong. He turned his attention to the workers who were now standing straighter, their eyes filled with a renewed sense of hope and determination. Elon's words resonated deeply with them, sparking something within that had long been buried under the weight of a rigid system. "I'm making some changes," Elon continued. "No more fear of speaking up. No more silencing creativity. I want you all to take ownership of your work. This place runs on your ideas just as much as it runs on the assembly line." He looked back at the shift manager one last time, his voice low but firm. "And you, if you can't understand that, then maybe it's time for you to find somewhere else to lead." The shift manager, still processing the reality of the situation, stood there stunned, too paralyzed to respond. Elon didn't wait for him to gather himself. He turned and began walking back toward the assembly line, his strides purposeful. The workers, still in shock, watched him go. As he moved through the factory, there was a quiet buzz of excitement. The air seemed charged with new energy, a sense of possibility that hadn't been there before. Without another word, Elon turned on his heel, heading for the exit. He didn't return to his station or linger for applause. His presence had already made its impact. As he walked through the factory, the buzz of activity filled the air, but there was a new energy. Workers moving with more confidence, heads held higher. The oppressive atmosphere had lifted, replaced by a quiet sense of empowerment. Elon paused at the exit, the weight of the moment settling over him. He realized that it wasn't just the workers who had changed. He had learned something too. True innovation wasn't just about technology, it was about empowering people, giving them the belief that they had the power to shape their own future. That was the real breakthrough. He stepped outside, breathing in the crisp air. There was no need for fanfare. His work here was done, but the lessons would stay with him. And just like that, Elon Musk quietly disappeared into the world once again, leaving behind a factory full of people who would no longer be cogs in a machine. They would be the future. If this story inspired you, there's even more to discover. Tap the video on your screen to dive into another powerful narrative filled with compassion, resilience, and the transformative power of kindness. Your next heartwarming journey is just one click away. Don't miss it.